Hello all. Thank you everybody for joining us. This is the first time uh, we make this activity we call Moy Yat Talks. It's, I would say, the first activity of the Institute, of the Moy Yat Institute in English, I would say, international, and with the great participation of three grandmasters. My name is Paulo Camis. I'm the president of Moy Yat Institute here in São Paulo. And I would like to invite you all to join the website, the platform, and please join, make your registration over there. Join us in the WhatsApp group, post your questions, send us suggestions. This is just the first activity, and we are making an agenda for next year to make activities like this for many other domains. I would say Patriarch Moy Kung left us a very nice material, nice recordings, and we would like to make it all available for the lovers of Moy Wing Chun to pose questions to their leaders, their sifus, their sikuns, and all the Moy clan to go back to the source, Moy Yat, Kung, and to see what he left us. Okay, so we started with three grandmasters. I was someone that despised presentations, but my CPAC Grandmaster William Moy, son of Patriarch Moy Yat, president of the International Moy Wing Chun Federation, and also the general director of the Moy Yat Institute. CPAC John Sang, my CPAC and also Grandmaster, and Grandmaster Liu Imamura, my Sifu. So thank you everyone for being here. I would like to say just introduction to the topic. Here in the Moy Yat Institute in São Paulo, we have a recipient in our Santoi, which says, which is painted by Sikun, Patriarch Moy Yat. Kung Fu without system is not Kung Fu. And Kung Fu that depends on the system is not a good Kung Fu. So I'm aware that in your generation, I'm from the 11th generation, you're from the 10th generations, Patriarch Moy Yat from the 9th generation. I'm aware that you discussed that topic, that phrase a lot. And also in one of your mokuns, that phrase was written in one of the walls. I'm aware of that, but never seen it myself because too young. So, well, I would like to start this discussion with Grandmaster William Moy and asking, how can we better understand what Kung Fu is?
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everybody, audience. Great to be with you guys. Yes. First of all, the general idea of Kung Fu, let's talk about that. It's generally, it's skill acquired through work.
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry.
It's that's a general understanding of it. And for us, to master Kung Fu is through, very simple, is through hard work and diligence. Okay. And what we have is actually a system, a ancient system to help us do that. A system basically is a framework, gives us structure. It has many benefits to it. It helps us to organize the material. So understanding it and comprehending it is easier. And also having a system helps it to be more efficient. So as we learn the skills, we don't duplicate. And a good system takes you from step to step from the beginning foundation, and then progress to be more advanced. Another thing great about a system that could help you understand Wing Chun is also the consistency. Right now, Wing Chun is probably one of the most popular Chinese Kung Fu out there. And it's not by any surprise why it became that way. And my opinion mainly is because it has a great system. You know, you could go to anywhere around the world, and if you practice Wing Chun, you could actually participate in other family or lineage, because our Wing Chun system is pretty consistent, pretty similar throughout the world. So to understand more about Kung Fu, we have the great thing of a good system.
Okay. Sipak John, Grandmaster John Sang, any comments around about that? What Kung Fu is?
I cannot with
We can hear you, Sipak. You can say, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you.
So the question is, how can we better understand what Kung Fu is?
Okay, Kung Fu is actually is elaborate into a general. Kung Fu doesn't mean it's just martial art. Kung Fu, anything could be Kung Fu. So if we're talking about martial art Kung Fu, then we are in talking about something that you really working into it for a long period of time and working hard for something long period of time. So that's Kung Fu. And of course, when we're talking about martial art, or then will be something slightly different. But in general, it's still something that will be you working into it for a long period of time. You're working hard in it. You keep practicing it. That's actually Kung Fu. So Kung Fu, in let's say Wing Chun, then you keep practicing Wing Chun, become Kung Fu. Okay, so there are ways to translate Kung Fu itself. So it's actually Kung Fu is very important in general. I mean, what for the meaning is of it. So so our topic is talking about system and Kung Fu, right? This today. Because I missed some of the what William said, so I don't want to go over repeat it. So I good signal right now. It's better.
Okay, let's hear from Grandmaster Leo, and then we come back to you, Sipak. Thank you. Any comments on that, Sifu?
Oh yeah. And one thing I think is very important to emphasize, because my seeing John Chen mentioned long period of time for Kung Fu, but how long it is, you know? So our Sifu used to say, and Kung Fu you count by decades, not by years. So that's long period we talk about. I mention that because nowadays, because internet and all kind of things, the fast information transfer, so people consider themselves sometimes expert by learning something in 6 months. You know, so I mean, so that's they consider and themselves expert, but actually in Kung Fu you need some decades and hard work, like he said. You know, that's a very, very important. You know, the other side, seeing William Moy mention about the Kung Fu system be a framework. which is a very important because, as John said, Kung Fu could be anything. So Sifu used to say Kung Fu is life, and life is everything. So how we can learn everything? So that's why we need a system. And of course, we need a Kung Fu system. But something I would like to put out to my brothers is why Kung Fu without a system is not Kung Fu. Why Kung Fu is so, and they need in his identity the system itself, otherwise won't be Kung Fu. I think that's a good discussion, Master Paulo. So then we can go to the second round to discuss why Kung Fu without a system is not a Kung Fu.
Okay, so let's go for another round. And I would like to go a little further in this phrase. Uh, what is the importance of a Kung Fu system? So, as Sipak John mentioned, you don't need to be a martial artist to have Kung Fu. Myself, I'm a physician as well. I'm not only a martial artist, but I can have Kung Fu by assisting patients. But the concept of system, what is the importance of a system, man? Please, Grandmaster William.
Yes, that's I'd say that's from the saying, right? So the saying is like, you know, what is Kung Fu without a system? I go back to the organization. You know,
The signal is breaking up. I'm going to try to see if I can find a better signal. I'm
Okay.
going to take off for a moment.
Okay, Sipak.
Okay. I guess we'll catch up with John. So, Kung Fu without a system. Actually, let's talk about this. My idea is that, you know, you would not have Kung Fu without a system, because to have Kung Fu is a skill, and like what Leo mentioned, is developed from a long period of time. So you need a way to practice that, to acquire that skill. So for it to be Kung Fu, the definition itself, it's like understanding the material very deeply, and having the time put into it. So Kung Fu, like Kung Fu without a system, it needs to have a way to develop and get the system. And that's what I can say about that.
Okay, Grandmaster Leo.
I think the Grandmaster William Moy put out a very important aspect, because Kung Fu, the skill itself, is not possible to be transferred. So we just can learn. No one can teach the skill. For example, with some famous master, they have some skill. For example, our Sifu, very skillful painter or very skilled calligrapher, but that kind of skill is impossible to be transferred to us. But if he has a system, a Kung Fu system, so he can transfer the system itself in order to the recipient of the system be able to develop his own Kung Fu. So That's a very important question about the importance of a Kung Fu system, because actually Kung Fu in our system is not able to someone develop his own Kung Fu. Of course, someone can develop some skill, put a lot of hard work, but as I mentioned, Professor Pei Mini has a very interesting background because he's a Chinese. He teaches in American University, the Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan, and his focus of study is Kung Fu, but not Kung Fu in a general, I mean, specifically martial arts. As I said, Sifu Sihin John is about the Kung Fu in a broader sense. In other words, Kung Fu as a general aspect of any human activity, will be any kind of art. So he said, if you want to develop just the skill, is not yet Kung Fu. To be Kung Fu, the foundation of the skill must be the human development. In other words, he must be a very developed human being in order to use everything you have around him to develop his skill. So in this kind of sense, I believe the system is very important. Otherwise, just be a skillful player like we have here in Brazil, many soccer players with a lot of skill. But sometimes the kind of skill is not represent Kung Fu. Must be just more than just skill. The skill must be based on the human development. This is, I believe, is a very important aspect of Kung Fu, according to the Professor Pei Mini.
Before asking you guys what is a good Kung Fu, what would be a good Kung Fu in that context, I would like to hear from you. We are talking here about Wing Chun system, but in a broader way, as you mentioned, and also as Sipak John mentioned. For example, I'm a physician, I'm a doctor. There are people that have other professions. What would be a good system for me to have Kung Fu in my professional practice? You say my system would be my books, would be my way of life, or I'll have to raise a system myself. How does it apply to other professions, like even art? I remember everybody knows that Sikung, Patriarch Moy Yat, was also an artist. How do you see this? Please.
I would say, my father used to say that when you practice Wing Chun Kung Fu so much, it becomes, it gets into your bone. It becomes you. You transcend the system. It's no longer physical techniques. The mechanical movements. It actually becomes part of you. So all the principles, all the concepts, it permeates everything you do. Everything you do has Kung Fu in it. So, and you do things automatically using your Kung Fu. So I feel that's a very high development, and that's very good Kung Fu. Why also that's important is that as we go through our lives and there's problems and issues we're going to take care of, it allows us to have adaptability that we could use our Kung Fu to handle different situations because we're so deep into Kung Fu.
Okay, so Sifu, Grandmaster Leo, same question to you.
Because John is already able to
Oh,
talk
good.
to it. Let me see.
Yeah.
Just no, I think not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, not yet. And that's about the big challenge. You know, what is the good Kung Fu? You know, because to be good, have good Kung Fu, that Kung Fu cannot be a copy, must be original. I remember one day we went to art show, the Chinese artist lady, and she's really good by painting nature, painting birds, painting fishes. And I said, "Wow, so beautiful seafood." And he said, "You know, it's good, but yet it's not Kung Fu." I said, "Why this is not Kung Fu?" Because the highest level of Kung Fu is not just a copy of nature. You must represent the nature itself, or the another way to show the nature. So that really blow up my mind, because for me, what the lady show is okay already, you know, it's a very good. But I believe now what Sifu tried to tell us was, I mean, you must to express your Kung Fu in a unique way. No, just do something good, you know, by copying something else. Must be something original, you know. I think that's the point. And I would like to remind people who was watching us, the Grandmaster William Moy is releasing a book in the beginning of the next year, and there is a chapter talk about Kung Fu system, right, William?
Yes.
So that is very, very important. If you want to know more details about the Kung Fu system, that book, it went very deep on the subject. Not just actually, not just this. The book's called "Living a Life as a Kung Fu Master." Many of you already may saw the announcement for January, maybe February, but the important is the book will be a really textbook for us, you know, in terms of the contents and the way you can understand better those contents point out in the past by our Sifu, the Patriarch Moy Yat.
Thank you, Leo, for the plug.
Okay, Sipak John, are you available? Are you with us? Better connection. So we were discussing, according to your first talk, that you can have Kung Fu in other activities, and I use the example that I am, as a physician, can have Kung Fu, but do I have to use a system, a medical system myself to develop Kung Fu in my practice? And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Sipak William now, but Sipak said that once you go through Wing Chun system, the Kung Fu gets into your bone. And I would say what my understanding is that everything you do is Kung Fu. And then I can transfer it to my practice as a physician. How do you see that, Sipak? Sipak John now, how do you put Kung Fu in different practice practices not only Wing Tsun Kung Fu.
Well, to me, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
I'm with the head.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I have a noise in background noise.
Yeah, the
Yes,
background
I know. Yeah, I'm using a different internet, and that's why it's a little bit noisy now. At least now I can
We cannot hear
have
you
better
properly,
signal
Sipa.
before.
Sorry, we cannot hear you properly. Can you get into a more quiet
Trying to
place?
get to a more quiet place. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Just hold on, and you guys can carry on first. Let me get to a better place. Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
We'll go back to you later. Okay, okay. Okay. Did I get it right, Sipak William? What you
Yes.
said about yes?
Yeah, I also want to piggyback on Leo's point that Kung Fu, good Kung Fu, it is an expression of yourself, and you're an individual. And also, our Sifu taught us that way. When he taught us Kung Fu, it was catered to you, you as an individual. So the system helps that. My father considered it was two systems. You learn the Wing Chun system that was passed through generation after generation. And then as you go through it, the system, you have your own system, because of your physical makeup, your size, physical makeup, even the way you are. And that's how you can express your own Kung Fu, your true Kung Fu, So everybody have their own way to play the Kung Fu, and a lot of it is that it's very personal. Some people use the Kung Fu more passive. Some people are more assertive, So that's your own true Kung Fu. Like it's an expression of yourself. So there is like two systems there. And he really tries to teach us that way, so we could actually excel, without personally our own means, our own potentials.
Okay, Sifu, any compliments on that?
Yeah, no, just to complement the importance to someone through a Kung Fu system like a Wing Chun, develop his personal Kung Fu, as the Grandmaster William Moy mentioned, because otherwise you always be a copy of someone. So develop his personal system or personal Kung Fu system is something really important to express themselves. I mean, or ourselves. I remember when people ask Bruce Lee, remember the Lost interview? He expressed and they said about what's the Kung Fu, and he has expressed, ultimately express yourself, which then he compliment, which is very difficult. So actually when he give the answer, he's talking about Kung Fu. I mean, of course, when you have a strict way or strict sense of Kung Fu, which is a martial art, but you have a broader sense, was as John mentioned, could be anything. It could be calligraphy, could be like you can express your Kung Fu by being physician, Paulo. So you can do anything, I mean, many people can express, but just be a good doctor doesn't mean you have good Kung Fu, because the good Kung Fu must interact with the others, all the time. So that's why the Professor Ni mentioned about human development. But Sihin John is back, So I'd like to pass the word to him. I say,
John, please.
Okay. Everybody can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Good. Okay. All right. So Kung Fu as well, I heard something a little bit over what Leo just said, you know, and at the beginning of the Kung Fu, I think everybody is copying each other first. You know, we have to copy the movement from our Siheng, or we have to copy the movement or learning steps from our Sifu. So that's the beginning step of the Kung Fu. But once you get into knowing all the steps, which is more like a system that we are learning. So learning step is basically, you can turn it into, like, let's say it's a system, because you start, let's say, from ceiling tile, samtail, building, all this is gradually going up. So this is a part of the system. But once you get into a system, you are in one level. But everybody have their learning stage. So once you get over all these three forms, and then you go into Zhong, Guan, Dou, and that is another learning stage. But once you are in that stage, your Kung Fu actually is be yourself already. Because once you are supposed to be in beauty, we're talking about basically in Wing Chun, right? So once you get into beauty, you should have pretty much knowledge what about Wing Chun is. That is your Kung Fu. And then you start from that level and you be yourself. Even though at the beginning of the Kung Fu, you're copying from your Sifu, that's the learning stage. It's a part of the system. So that's why at the beginning stage, if a Kung Fu without a system, it will not be a good system at all. Okay? So we have to have a system for everybody who started first. And then we're going to elaborate the second phrase that we have. Without a system, it's not a good Kung Fu, right? Which depends on the system, it's not good Kung Fu. So basically, everybody should have understanding when you start to learn Kung Fu at the beginning. So everybody is copying each other at this point. And then you copy to the right way, though. You copy to the correct way. So that this way, your basic background, your foundation will be good. But if you copy a wrong step, this might lead you to a wrong type of Kung Fu later on, because we all need Kung Fu. So I don't know if anybody can understand the meaning of this Kung Fu. We have to depend on the system, that's why. At the beginning only. But when you're in different level, so you don't depend on the system anymore. And then we go into a little bit deeply to elaborate and explain the phrase of what our Sifu Moy Yat said.
Perfect, Sipak. So I would like to go one step further and ask each one of you, starting with Grandmaster William Moy, what does it mean to be dependent on a Kung Fu system, and why that is not good Kung Fu?
Right. Like what both my brothers mentioned, that, you know, when we first start out, we need to copy, we need a guide, you know, and that's either the Kung Fu brothers, and then or you follow the system. But after you master the skills and the understanding of the art, okay, you got to kind of free yourself and move on. And transcend and go beyond the system. So basically more like really using the system as like yourself. So there's a big freedom in that, you know, and it starts to happen during your training, you know, when you're in your intermediate stages doing Chi Sao, then we get more advanced stages, you start to become more playing Kung Fu more your way, or you want to say your style. Even like during the Chi Sao exercise, you will play more particular technique. Example, maybe let's say you're taller in size, you know, so you're not going to just play all the techniques, you know. You're going to specifically play techniques that probably suit your size, you know. So if you're taller and you're doing Chi Sao, you'll probably do more techniques coming from higher level down, you know. And if you're a shorter person, you'll probably favor more techniques, hands going up and, you know, using the ground and hands going up. So you start to play techniques more to your physique and your size, you know. So you start to see that in Chi Sao. And also it accumulates as you move on. And especially we have a stage called My San Zhong, you know, where two practitioners stand apart and they come together with their own Kung Fu, you know. And it's whatever you want to play, another person want to play, nothing planned. And then you will exchange the techniques, and then see what works, see what did not work, and you do a few rounds to kind of just express where you're at in your Kung Fu, you know. So that's that. So you start to be more free, you know. I think, you know, you don't want to depend on it because you know, when we need to use our Kung Fu, usually, you know, you need it right away. It's spontaneous, you know, especially in terms of physical, using Kung Fu, physical and self-defense. It should just come out automatic, spontaneous. If you take time and think about exactly, you know, which technique I should use, and think it's not a reflex, is very dangerous. You know, you won't be able to protect yourself. So the Kung Fu, if you don't depend on it, it comes out automatically, and it's like a reflex. And if you train appropriately, and for whichever circumstance, your logic, your training will help you, or let's say you're forced to do the exact technique you need to do, rather than oh, I learned this technique from this part of the system, I'm gonna try that, you know. So so if you don't depend on the system, you're more freer to really express yourself. And if it's a physical confrontation using your physical Kung Fu, then it'll come out in forms of your techniques.
Very good, Sipak. Sipak, John, any comments on that?
Yes, that's why I always tell people that our family, Wing Tsun Kung Fu, our lineage is actually the way that we learn when we train. We don't depend on the system once you get into a certain level already. And just like Wing just said, you know, and because all our techniques have become the second nature of the body, you know, we don't depend on the system really anymore. If you depend on the system, it's like you're playing, let's say you're playing QG first form, second form, third form. Are you going to depend on those? It's like, you know, when you're doing a combat, and then you basically encountering different way of how to deal with your opponent. And that's how, if you depend on the system at that time, then it will be too late. Because like Wim said, we always say that our techniques don't really come from our mind and think about it first. You know, we just act the correct way to encounter the fight or the technique from your opponent. So it really there's no set of kung fu or no set of system. Hey, he give me a jab, and then what should I do? It really depends, because if you are face to face in front of your opponent, or you're on the sideway, or you step on the sideway, all these depends on how good your kung fu is. So how to respond, and that's why if you depend on the system, then you don't have a good kung fu.
Thank you very much, Sipak. Sifu, any comments on that?
Yeah, I could. I would like to remember some lines who wrote by saying Joy Moy 4 in 1982, in the book, this book, the Wing Tsun Kung Fu, when he said, Sifu said that the purpose of Wing Tsun Kung Fu is to lead you to be free and relaxed. This can never be achieved if you are tied physically or emotionally to technique. You must free yourself from dependence on mechanical expression and trust your body, your own kung fu to protect yourself. So I think this is exemplifies very well what the Sihins mentioned before. You know, even when you play my San John, when you express yourself or other situation, more practical situation you have. So good kung fu is the one that depends on the system. And when the Sihins mention about the system in the beginning, sounds like when Sifu mentioned about the Sao Pole. Sao means obey, you know, so it's preserve the tradition. So that means the beginning when you learn the system. When I see him, John mentioned about the after the second trilogy or the first trilogy, you are studying Tao Cham Kyu BUG is express that phase, that stage. But the second one, which is includes Udendami, Po, and Do, that one you can say you have another nature. Or, in other words, Paul. Paul means to break, to analyze, to have a different approach of the system, to finally achieve the lay stage, which is the moment we know you're no more dependent on the system anymore, you know, because you already has your own kung fu. Your kung fu is mature. So that's why I think Sifu mentioned about good kung fu. Good kung fu is a mature kung fu, you know. And so when we have all these three stages, so we actually have all those two systems mentioned by Sihin William. In other words, the Kung Fu system itself and the personal Kung Fu, which is when you not depends of Kung Fu, I mean, on the system anymore.
Thank you, Sifu. While I was listening to these three great grandmasters, I came up with a sentence myself, a phrase. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can we say that having kung fu is being yourself in your best form? Did I get it right? Like when you reach these steps, would that be kung fu? Good kung fu? Being yourself, reaching a step, reaching a phase when you are yourself in your best form? Did I get it right? Or
I think.
I like
Go
it,
ahead.
but isn't there should also be a part that it should be reactive to your circumstance? Because that's using your kung fu, right?
okay. Okay, so I have a question from the people that are following us. Eric Burnett, thank you for being here, Eric. So he sent a question. Do you have any advice for keeping clear the difference between one's own kung fu and the system from a teaching point of view? Any comments on that, Sipak? Starting with you.
Yes. I think it's very important to study your student to understand the physical makeup, their thinking, and even their intent, why they want to learn Kung Fu. Okay, that's important because sometimes you teach people a technique, even if they get the position right, the idea behind it might be wrong. Example, let's say you're teaching a person, let's just take a punch. Okay, so a punch, a Wing Chun straight punch, could be multi-purpose. A Wing Chun straight punch could be an attack. It could even be a defense, defense, offense. Okay? So when you're teaching somebody, get an idea on what their intent, how they want to use that technique. Okay? And sometimes their intent, it doesn't match the technique. You know, so my suggestion would be, you know the Kung Fu, the technique, and you really have to also understand that the student at that time, and also the reason why he's doing that technique.
Thank you, Sipak. Sipak John, any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree with what William said. Yes, because it really depends on the technique. I mean, the technique itself is there, you know, but the person who executing the technique could be different. You know, like he earlier mentioned that a taller guy and shorter guy. Well, both these tall and short people, they probably will have better techniques. In, let's say, a taller guy could have better maybe Hojong, and the other guy might have a lot of like Bingge. So all these are based on, you know, the situation, and that's why again we go back to the system again. You know, if you at the beginning you don't learn from the system, then you cannot get all the techniques that the technique nature to be. But once you get everything, once you learn everything, the technique, and knowing the technique could be changeable. Once again, Wing Chun is something that is a type of Kung Fu that really could adapt to any kind of situation. And the hands could be moved from one technique to another technique very fluently, because that's the way the Wing Chun technique built from. You know, we can use, let's say, very simple one from Tan Sao, Bong Sao, and Fok Sao. All these three basic hands can change to a lot of different techniques, and that's why if you really depend on the system, which is the system, if you think about the system, it's like a learning stage only, okay, then of course, if you depend on it, your Kung Fu is not good. So
okay, thank you very much, Sipak. Sifu, Grandmaster Liu, any comments on that?
Yeah, as you know, came from Japanese martial arts before start to play Wing Chun, learn Wing Chun, not just from Sifu, but even before. And one thing I wonder why in Kung Fu, mainly when I learn from Sifu, we don't have the like in Japanese karate, we have the foundations like the Kihon or just the technique, train the technique apart. With the fundamental learning start with the quinto or the forms. So we start with Sunim Tao, then Cham Kyu, and so on, right? We don't train just tang sao, then punch, 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 or kick, 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 you know? No, in the traditional way, at least. And I wonder why. Then when they see him, John mention about the how each movement transform in another, so maybe that's the answer why we don't train the mechanical way. Otherwise, we'll be tied on those movements, and you'll be very difficult, Eric, to be separate or don't depend on them in the future, because all those movements we learn in the first stage of the system must be maybe forgot or change in the future, because we need to adapt to the situation, to the circumstance. And this you happen if you teach in the the correct way. But what is the correct way in this teaching point of view is follow the system like our Sifu used to do. I saw some modern methodology when you try to introduce something, but still, in my opinion, the most effective way to make keeping clear, as you said, the difference between the one's own Kung Fu and the system is to follow the Wing Chun system itself, so that you never commit any mistake, because then, like Sir William mentioned, will be possible to separate, you know, the personal Kung Fu and the Wing Chun system itself.
Okay, thank you, Eric, and thank you all for the answers. Before, I believe we have very short time for fulfilling our talk, but I have a wonderful question from Vladimir. I'll now share it with you. Here we go. As a Kung Fu beginner, how can we make sure I don't just copy my Sihin's Kung Fu, but in fact let my Kung Fu develop as something personal? If you can make a very short comment so it can be on time for that question. Very good question. Thank you, Vladimir. Please, starting with you, Sipak William.
So as a beginner, actually that's as a beginner, it's difficult. It is very difficult to know, you know, what you see, what you experience is the system. But there are some principles that never change, you know. So I can share on this, you know, economy of motion, economy of energy, you know. So use these principles, and as you're experiencing and learning your Wing Chun, you keep them and think about it. So if a senior is showing you their Kung Fu, and they might be playing a certain way, maybe with a little bit more movement or so on, or a little bit more energy, but you keep the main principles there. You know, if it's economy of motion, economy of energy, then you will know that you want to play it a little more tighter, less movement, versus if somebody's showing you it that way. I mean, of course, my thinking is always be respectful to your fellow Kung Fu brothers and sisters. We're all on the same journey. Be respectful because maybe they're still kind of learning. But I would use your Wing Chun principles, you know, and especially the one I mentioned really will help you. You know, if you see movements, techniques, you know, so we have some basic techniques, Tan, Bong, Fok, as you should probably know as a beginner. As you're executing these techniques, if you're making big, broad movements, it's moving very much away from the principles. So then you have to kind of start to think about it and question that maybe this is not the system. You know, maybe this is how your Kung Fu brother or sister is interpreting it. So I would just simply say, stick with the basic principles. That could help you.
Okay, I would like to extend the questions to the other grandmasters, but we're running out of time. Unfortunately, can you make a very brief comment on that question, Sipak, John, and Sifu Liu, please, if possible, very short one.
Yes, for the beginner. Yeah, for the beginner, I think what William already went over it, and basically for the beginner, when we teach a new guy or a new student, then you have to keep in mind that they are the new student. And your Sihing or your Sifu, of course, you're already in a different level. So we have to depend on the system at this time now. So everybody start learning from the beginning stage, you know, and so basically it's like relax, okay, and just copy it first, okay. But I know a lot of students probably at the beginning they will have a lot of questions to your Sihing or Sifu, and then Sifu, if I ask about something about a technique to Sifu, Sifu will say, just keep practicing. Keep playing out, and then you will know it by the time that when time comes, you know what this is. But if you're asking a Sihing probably sometimes will go over a little bit to his own opinion or his level is different, then sometimes he might explain to a new student might not even understand. So we have to keep a new beginner, okay, to as simple as much as possible. So just to, like how I learned from people, you know, just keep practicing. And when you practice, then you'll be okay. And you don't ask questions. The whole time we don't ask questions that much. But even if we ask questions, people say, just play your Kung Fu. Just keep playing it. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Sipak. Sifu, any short comments on that before we go for the final comments of everybody? And
No, I just want to remember why our Sifu very rarely show his Kung Fu, because that way is easier to us develop our own. Of course, we learn from our Sihins, but it's a little different because it's the same generation. So the influence is more easier to later on we let go to develop our own Kung Fu. So I think the advice gave by my Sihings were very good, especially when the Sihing William mentioned about and pay attention on the principles or the nature of the system, you know. And remember, each domain you are up to, let's say Siunim Tao, Cham Kyu is different, BUG, or Mui Fajong, or Lukting Pung Kwan at Pacham To. Every domain, you have a different influence of your sayings, and how you have to handle with the influence. You know? So, but Vladimir asked about the Kung Fu beginner. So that's, I think, the easier way. Just, I mean, try to follow the good examples and pay attention on the principles or the nature. It will be, I mean, very easy later on. You can develop your own Kung Fu in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much, Sifu. And before asking all the grandmasters to share with us their final words, I would like to thank everybody for being here. Thank you very much. And I would like to invite you all to join us in the platform. We'll be making an agenda for other activities like this during the next year, next months. So stay tuned. We are developing it, and let's make everybody get closer to what Patriarch Moy Yat left us, which is a very rich material, and then we can drink more and more from the source. I'm seeing now there are many questions popping up in the chat, but we won't have time to answer them all. But thank you very much, and please leave your suggestions. Join us in the WhatsApp group and go to the platform, the website, and we'll be happy to make it happen, to make it get to you in the best way, in the way Patriarch Moy Yat would love us to do. I hope so. We hope to honor his memory. Okay, so let me invite the Grandmaster, starting with my Sipak William Moy, Grandmaster William Moy, to his final comments. Please, Sipak.
Oh, thank you for everybody listening. And like Paul say, please give us some feedback. And thank you.
Sipak John, please.
Yes. Thank you everybody to coming to join us this event, and just keep practice your Kung Fu, and that system, and not depend on system. It's really up to you. If when you are in different level, then you will be understanding it, because you know, at the beginning, for the beginner, you have to depend on the system. But once you are reached to a certain level, you really don't depend on it anymore. That's the way Wing Tsun, our Wing Tsun, to be trained that way already. So you don't really have to ask, you know, why is this? You know, is it a better system, or is that do we depend on the system? No. Once you get to the level, then you will know, because the way our people train us is already start from that way. So it's up to you if you want to advance yourself, which means that you don't depend on your system anymore. Then you will have a good Kung Fu.
Sipak John, Grandmaster. Now, Grandmaster Leo, Sifu, please, your final words.
I just want to congratulate you for this initiative from the Moy Yat Institute, which is honoring our seafood memory and mainly his legacy. And to my seeing Grandmaster William Moy, who is the general director of the institute. So thank you guys. Thank you, Sihin John, for participate. Sihin John always bring very deep thought about the Kung Fu. And I really honored to be part of this group to discuss about our seafood teaching. Thank you, William.
Guys, thank you very much. And just not to forget the background that the guys that are helping us a lot, Vinicius Valverde and Felipe Soares, they're here in helping me a lot. So that's it. Please join us in the website, join the institute. Let's make it happen. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you.